Teamwork isn't just nice to have in business, it's the undisputed competitive advantage. When your team members work as a unified force, your whole operation benefits through higher productivity, thriving creativity, and unstoppable momentum. Welcome to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast, where we share with you strategies and tactics to help you develop game-changing teams so that you and your business can make a real difference in the world. So welcome back to this week's edition of Impactful Teamwork. My name's Julia Felton. I'm going to be your host and guide for the next 20 minutes or so. And today I wanted to talk about the topic of connection, because it's one that's been coming up a lot recently, both for clients, and it's always a topic that comes up when we're partnering with the horses. And I've really been prompted to do this because of a workshop actually I was on earlier today, where we were talking a lot about marketing and selling, and how in this advent of the AI revolution that we're in at the moment, that human connection is more important than ever before. And I think we can probably all agree that we're living in a world where sometimes we can't tell what's real from what's fake. And on this particular workshop, we were talking about a number of the videos that are out there created by AI, and actually you just can't tell the difference unless you really pay close attention. And as I'm talking about this, it reminds me of a course I was on actually just the other weekend, where the trainer put up a picture of two people hanging out sipping cocktails by the swimming pool. And we were like, oh yeah, that's where I'd like to be. This hot climate, sunny day by the swimming pool. And as we looked at this picture, which was AI generated, we realized that the gentleman in the picture actually had 3 arms. So we really have to pay close attention to realize when something is fake and AI generated versus being real. I believe right now that people are craving this level of connection and authenticity more than ever before. So that's why I wanted to delve into the concept of connection today. And I wanted to draw on some material that I put in my book, Unbridled Success: How the Secret Lives of Horses Can Impact Your Leadership, Teamwork, and Communication Skills. And I wrote this book nearly 13 years ago, but I think the content is as applicable today, if not more applicable today, than it was then. Because I think we all know that in business, leadership is really important and communication is really important. But if we think about a triad, a triangle, I like to think of it as TLC: trust, leadership, and connection. These all form the key points of being able to engage and talk to our teams most effectively. And I think that we can all agree that relationships actually drive business performance. So it's really important as leaders that we really understand how to connect, whether that's in a one-on-one or in a group setting with an audience. And when we connect more effectively, the relationships are stronger, our sense of community and belonging improves, and we're able to create situations where we can have a lot more influence. And I really love this definition of connection from John Maxwell, who says and defines connection as the ability to identify with people and relate to them in a way that increases your influence with them. And I think some of the benefits of more effective connection and communication are better family and personal relationships, better business relationships, and also just a general better experience of life. The Harvard Business Review says the number one criteria for advancement and promotion for professionals is the ability to communicate effectively. And so let's just talk a little bit about connection, because the first person that we need to be able to connect with is ourselves. We need to be really honest with ourselves about what we want and what we don't want, because if we can't be clear with ourselves, how can we articulate what we want to others, and how can we connect with them more effectively? back when I wrote this book in 2012, I had met a lady called Nadine Honeybone, and she had created an autistic directory because she had a son who was autistic. And what was interesting to me was how passionate she was about the whole subject. And it made her immensely likable and connectable with because of her level of passion for the subject that she had. And Zig Ziglar has this famous quote, which is, if you first help people get what they want, they will help you get what you want. And in this case of Nadine, she had helped people find a way to connect through the autism directory with other people working in the sector or other parents with kids with autism. And through that, she was getting a sense of fulfillment and joy in what she was doing. And also, when we think about connection, it's really important that when we step into the shoes of the person that we're talking to and we see the things from their perspective, we can provide a different solution. So years ago, when I rescued and adopted the ponies Bracken and Thistle, they came to our yard, and quite quickly, actually, Bracken got very sick with an illness that was very viral. So she needed to be kept in isolation. And you might be able to imagine the anxiety that was causing for other people on the yard. They're like, oh, I don't want my horse to get this illness. What can I do? And so I had to be really cognizant of other people who were, to be honest, quite frankly, getting really angry with me. And so what I did was I stepped into their shoes and tried to connect with them from the place that they were in, which was their fear and anxiety about what was going on. And that from that place, I was able to come up with some workable solutions and take my emotions out of the equation so that we could find a way that we could keep all the horses safe, which in fact is what we did. And nobody else got sick, just the horses within my little herd. I think animals can be such a leveler for us about defining what connection is. I came across some research from a trainer at SeaWorld in Orlando who works with killer whales. And she summed up this fact that connection is all about caring for others, because this is what she wrote. I've been a trainer for 24 years and have been connecting and teaching others how to connect with Shamu for many years. And Shamu is the killer whale. And Shamu has been one of my greatest teachers too. When you look into a killer whale's eyes, you realize it's not about you. It can't be. The connection is made when they know that you are there for them. It's all about building trust through a loving, caring relationship. You must be sincere and worthy of being followed to connect and build a relationship with the ocean's top predator. Connection is all about helping the other person know that you are there for them. And this takes the ego out of the equation. And when we do connect with people, we can get amazing results. And I've seen this time and time again on our equine facilitated leadership retreats, when we get clients sometimes to do what we call a breathe with, which is stand with the horse, put your hand on the horse's neck and your hand on his chest and breathe with him in harmony. Just stopping and connecting with the horse in that moment. It's incredible, some of the emotions that get released for people. And I remember a workshop that I run at my friend's yard down in Sussex, and we were working with her old pony called Olive. And a lady, let's call her name Susan, came and was doing the breathe with exercise with Olive. And all of a sudden, during the exercise, the woman just broke down into floods and floods of tears. And in that moment, Olive literally got her neck and gave the woman a massive neck hug. It was really powerful and incredible to see. And later on, we asked the woman if she would care to share what was going on for her, to really acknowledge the feelings of grief that she had through the loss of her own mother. And up to that point, she'd been very stoic and pushing on and sorting things out for everyone else, and hadn't really taken care of her own feelings. She hadn't connected to herself and what was going on for her. And in that moment, when she was able to release that, she connected even more powerfully with Olive, and they formed an amazing relationship. So I wanted to share with you there are 4 components of connection that happen. And connection happens on 4 levels, which is visually, intellectually, emotionally, and verbally. And I just wanted to quickly delve into what each of these look like for us in the workplace. Research has shown that as humans, we remember 50% of what we see, but less than 20% of what we hear. We retain 80% of what we experience. And that's why experiential learning and development, like the workshops I run with the horses, is so incredibly powerful. And it's also why we're seeing such a proliferation of video communications, either in the workplace or online or in social media, because it's such a powerful medium with which to connect with people. And just think about it. One of the great stories that came out of the pandemic was the advent of Zoom. Prior to the pandemic, doing video conferences had actually been quite challenging. I had started using Zoom prior to COVID, but I accelerated the use of that exponentially during the COVID times, and I continued to use it as a staple of my day-to-day work. And why does it work so well? It works because not only do we get to speak to people, we actually get to see them. We get some other visual cues about what is going on for people. You've got a lot more points of reference that you can use to build a relationship with somebody. When we're on video, we can actually see how the other person is feeling, what's going on for them. Maybe they look a bit disheveled, maybe they look a bit anxious or frustrated. That level of clarity about what's going on doesn't happen in a non-visual format. So really valuable that video is increasing in its use, because I think it does ease communication and certainly makes it a bit easier in the virtual and hybrid world that we're now living in today. The other really powerful thing about video is that we need to remember that we need to get people's attention really quickly. I referenced earlier on that people's attention span is very short. A friend of mine who's an expert in this area would say that it's probably less than a second. We make judgments at lightning speed about whether we are going to engage with people or not. So videos really need to be powerful straight from the off. But we're also making assumptions about people based on what they're wearing. So visually, it's really important that we think about how we're presenting ourselves. And that's why, as a business leader, it's also really important that we create engaging content that people want to listen to immediately. Whether we're face to face or online, we want to always start meetings with something that is engaging, that people go, oh yeah, I want to listen to that. People's time is very valuable, and people are only going to give us their time if we've got something that is valuable to them, that inspires them. The second area which we connect with is intellectually, and that is what people understand. And earlier on, I spoke about Nadine and her passion for autism. And people really connect with our level of passion on a subject. And as business owners and leaders, we really need to be clear on what our business is doing, the solutions we're going to provide, and how it really helps our clients. And if we can't talk about our subject matter passionately, we're not going to be able to connect with potential prospects. And this is the same with our team members. We need to all be on the same page about where the business is going. And as a business leader, we need to have clarity about the direction the business is going in. And all of our team leaders need to be bought into that vision, because if you're the owner of a business and you're the only one who is passionate about where your business is going, your team leaders, your other executive team, if they're not on the same page, they're never going to be able to speak as passionately about what the business does. And this is why I really love working with the horses, because when somebody isn't passionate and authentic about how they're feeling or how they're showing up in the moment, the horses just call them on this. So the horses really require us to be authentic and what we call congruent. And I know from a workshop I run with a client a number of years ago, we were actually really trying to figure out what her purpose was. As she stood there in the round pen with my horse Charlie, she was giving me lots of really logical reasons about what her business should do and why she was doing it. And as I sat there listening to her, they weren't inspiring, they weren't motivating. And Coach Charlie was just standing there sleeping to the side of her. And I kept asking her questions and challenging her about why is it important? Why is it important? And then all of a sudden, completely out of left field, she said, this business is important to me because it's going to enable me to save more elephants in Africa. The energy and the tonality with what she said that and the passion with what she said that was palpable. And at that moment, Charlie walked over to her and put his head on her chest. And it was such a touching moment because once she got connected intellectually to what she wanted to happen, then that made a massive difference. Because we've perhaps all heard the adage that is, facts tell, stories sell, emotions buy, logic justifies. So our suppliers, our customers, and our team members buy from us because of the emotion that we display. If you've got the option of buying two different products or services, who are you going to buy it from? The person that's authentic and passionate and excited about their products or service, or the person who's very vanilla and very plain about it? This is where I think AI comes in, because I think AI is struggling, from my perception anyway, to put that level of emotion and passion into what it does. And this is what really differentiates human interaction from AI interaction. It's that level of passion and excitement that comes from the interaction. And I've experienced this firsthand, actually, when I was at my first ever consulting company and I was working for them. The directors had tried to do a management buyout and it had failed, and they were, as a result, asked to leave the company. So I was left working at a company with a number of directors that spoke a good talk, but they didn't inspire and motivate me. I wasn't thinking how excited I'm going to be working for them. And in fact, my boss, who had left, actually went to another company. He indirectly approached me about coming to work for him. The passion and enthusiasm and the excitement he had for the opportunity he was creating and what we could co-create together in the new company was just palpable. The directors of the firm I was currently left at, their solution to keep me engaged was to offer me more money. And they did. They offered me quite a bit more money than going to work for my old boss at his new company. And I turned their money down because I realized, remember that emotion buys, logic justifies. I was buying the emotion and the passion and the opportunities and the vision of my old boss. It wasn't about the money. If I just thought about the money, I would have stayed at the firm where I was. That didn't excite me. That didn't stir my juices. I wasn't connected to that. So it's really important that we think about connection on an emotional level as well. What's going to drive people into action is that emotion, how they impact the limbic part of the brain, which doesn't talk to logical thinking. It's based on emotions. And in fact, that's all the work that I do with the horses, is actually talking to your emotions and how you show up and feel in the moment. And in fact, that's what our team connect with too. Our teams connect with us emotionally as leaders, not on a very transactional level. And the final way that we connect is verbally. So this is about what people hear. And even though words probably only make up about 7% of the communication, the words we choose are very important. And there's a number of Shakespearean quotes that are still in use today because of the words that people have used. And Mark Twain summed this up really well about the power of words when he said, the difference between the almost right word and the right word is really a large matter. It's the difference between the lightning bug and the lightning. So the power of words, for me, comes across in the choice of the words. We can use phraseology as business leaders to try this new idea, which usually means we won't try it, or we are going to do this new idea, recognizing it may or may not work. We can use a lot of positive language. I would highly encourage you to restrict your vocabulary to positive words. Those positive words are much more inspiring and dynamic for our team members. And if we look at the vibration of communication, they're at a much higher level, and they're going to help people become the best version of themselves when we start using positive language. Every time people use negative language, it tends to push us down. If people say, I don't think you can achieve that, Julia, then there's a good chance I'm probably not going to achieve that. Because we buy into other people's stories, where if we're surrounded by people, and Jim Rohn says our success is defined by the 5 people that surround us the most, and they're all cheering you on by their positivity of their language, that's going to make a massive difference to how we show up. So we really need to think about connection there in terms of that positivity of language of the words. So connection is such an integral part of everything that we do in business. But as I said, it's always got to come from that place of authenticity. And messages that we're sharing with our team and with other people must always be in our own language, our own words. People can sense when we are spilling something off that somebody else told us to say, that we don't feel passionate about. Many of us have already become quite expert at being able to tell social media posts and blog posts that are generated by AI. And I'm not saying don't use AI. I think it's a massive time saver. But what I would say is sprinkle your own level of uniqueness and magic dust across it, because that is what's going to make you unique and help you connect with other people. Because I'd like to close today's podcast with this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, "What you are speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you say." So always remember, people are connecting with you, they're connecting with your energy, they're connecting with your vibe. So my invitation for you today is to just think about which are the 4 ways, or which are the 4 components of connection that you are using. Are you predominantly using visual or intellectual or emotional or verbal ways of connecting with people? And I would suggest that we need a mix of those, because we need to connect with people with where they are and what they need. So connection is a massive part of the work that I deliver to my clients, and is one of the key accelerators in a new program that I will be launching over the upcoming weeks. One of the first pillars is about Reveal the Heart, which is all about authenticity, and how as leaders we need to show up as the best version of ourselves in order to inspire and motivate others. And that, of course, is what the horses need as well. So until next week, I really encourage you to think about, how do you connect with other people, and how can you do that more powerfully in order to create more massive momentum in your business. Thanks for listening to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast. Please stay tuned for future episodes, and do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on your favorite platform. Recommendations are essential for attracting new listeners. Please follow us on social media at Julia Felton and at Business Horsepower. And if there are any topics you'd like us to cover on future episodes, please do let me know. Remember, you and your team are always making an impact. What impact will you make today?